about the Pinus strobus, or the common name, the white pine. This is just one of my favorite for survival trees. It's an excellent tree. It provides you with so many survival needs. Now, I can't cover everything with the white pine in one video. So the little survivor and I will break down each section I talk about, and we'll do examples of each one. But let's get started. How do you identify a white pine? Well, this is an evergreen tree. So it has needles all year round. There are some exceptions, like the Larix leucina, like the eastern larch, that drops their needles, but for the most part, you can always identify it by the needles. So let me just get a closer view. See here, there's fascicles of 5, or groupings of 5. As you can see here, everything at the end there, it comes down to a grouping. So there's 5 needles. Now, do all of these have 5 needles? No, some could fall off or whatever, but just kind of look around, and if you see 5 needles in there, you know it's a white pine. One way to remember this is high five, you found the white pine. So high five, 5 fingers, 5 needles, white pine. Now there are some other pines that have 5 needles, but the ones I'm familiar with is in California. It's a sugar pine, so that's not around here. This is the eastern white pine. So what can you do with the needles? You can do a lot with the needles. First of all, you can just take these needles off the tree. It's filled with vitamin C and vitamin A. The little survivor told me it has 5 times as much vitamin C as an orange. Now, I know you think, like, when you think vitamin C, you think oranges and grapefruits and lemons and stuff like that. I think it's actually 5 times more than a lemon. But I heard one time that the greener something is, the more vitamin C it has. And in this case, that's the case. So what you do is you just put it in your mouth and you just chew it. You chew it to a pulp. And once it loses all the flavor, you got all your vitamins. You can spit out the pulp. I heard about people swallowing it. It's not going to hurt you, I don't think, but I just spit out the pulp. What else you could do with the needles is you could make a tea out of it. And that's great. You add a little sweetener to it, something like that, or you could just drink it the way it is. It's great. Needles also provide insulation. You can take, the ground is covered in needles. Dry needles, you can put them underneath your shirt, tuck it in. It adds a layer of insulation. You can also use that for ground cover. You can put that on the ground, so then you can sleep on top of that to protect you from the earth, the cold earth. What else? You could take the needles, put them in a stuff sack for for a pillow. You can make a debris hut. You could take the branches here, make a shelter out of it. So there's numerous things you could do with needles. Oh, and I forgot one. You could actually start a fire with these needles. They burn pretty easily. So the needles are very good, and there's so many uses for it, like I said. Let's move on to, since we're talking about fire, pitch. This is an adult white pine behind me. The pine pitch, or pine sap, or I guess you call it pitch because sap would be more like your Acer cercarums or like your maples, stuff like that. Sugar maples, that would be considered sap, I guess. I guess this would be considered pitch, I think. So the pitch is flammable. You can use that to start a fire. You can use that to continue a fire in wet conditions, make torches out of it, what have you. Also with the sap, you can, if you get a wound, you clean out the wound, and then you can put the sap on top of your wound, and it will help you disinfect the wound, to help you, keep the bacteria out. Acts like a Band-Aid, all that kind of stuff. So it's good for wounds also. Sap is also good for making glue. Sorry about that. The memory went out on me. So we were talking about pitch and glue. So there's a couple recipes I have for glue. One is like a tool type of recipe, where you can make like tools. Like, for instance, I was by the river this last year, and what I did is I found a mussel shell, put it to a stick, and then glued it to the stick, and ate some soup with it. Other kinds I know is kind of like a concrete type thing. It's a little harder. Also a waterproof one, where it's for like bucket making, sealing a bucket up, stuff like that. So you have that aspect of the pitch you can do that with. As far as food, this thing has, like I said, the vitamin C. Also, you can cut a little square in the tree, just a little square, and you can eat the inner bark. Scrape out the outside of the bark. Now, I don't make a habit of, scarring up trees, but they say, and I've seen it before, it heals up pretty well. I normally go for the trees that are like already, that just fell over recently, or that have a weird, that I know is going to die, from like a storm or something like that, where it doesn't grow right. I use those ones. But you can do that on, the older trees and the younger ones. So Just make sure, not something like this. I guess you could do that, but it's a little small. Um, so yes, so the inner bark. I used to live in the Adirondacks. The word Adirondacks was from the Iroquois people. I believe it's the Iroquois. I'm not positive. Meaning bark eaters. The neighboring tribes, when winter got hard or whatever, they used to eat a lot of the bark from this tree. It's because of this. So Adirondacks was, bark eaters from this tree. Um, so so you could do that if it's a little hard for you, which you could just normally chew it up and swallow. If it's a little hard, you could treat it like a potato chip, or you could cook it like a potato chip. I meant to say is like put it on a rock, and then just bake it over the fire or next to the fire, and it'll be crunchier and stuff. So like a potato chip. Other food items. Now these trees are they have pine cones, both male and female pine cones. The female pine cones are way up high. They have seeds in them. If you're lucky enough to get the seeds, you can go ahead and eat that. A lot of times animals get there faster. Like birds will get it and squirrels can get it. So I don't have wings and I can't climb a tree like that. So I'll have to wait till I fall. A lot of the cases, and you can tap it on a rock to see if anything's in there. The pine cones are basically when it's hot, they're open, and when it's like wet out, they're closed up a little bit. So you can try to get seeds from both and see what happens, but can't rely on that. The younger ones, the lower ones are the males. Now the males have um, pollen in it. I heard about people collecting the pollen as like a sweetener. You can just eat those ones. Really just the way they are. The females stay up there. Could stay up there a couple of years. The males has a shorter period. I'm not quite sure what the period is. Maybe a couple of weeks, something like that. But like I said, you can't always count on that because the animals get to them pretty fast. Also, in the woods, the trees tend to grow higher. These pines are designed to grow extremely fast. They can grow especially their teenage years. They can grow over 3 feet a year. They're designed to beat out all the other competition. I think they're probably the tallest tree in the northeast here. So they do get high. So getting up there to get the seeds is very hard. You want to look for maybe one in the open. If it's in the open, the branches tend to go out more. Those ones will be easier to collect the seeds right off the tree. But there is a good thing about having these trees, just grow like that, grow crazy like that. This one's probably, I don't know, 100 feet tall. They can get to 150 without, if it was old growth, I bet you they can be 200 feet, if people didn't chop them down all the time. But yeah, they tend to get pretty high. But anyways, what I'm saying is the good thing is that with trees like this, you see branches that are really brittle toward the bottom, and they're filled with that pitch. So they're very flammable and dry. So even if you have snow on the ground and everything, you can always go to these trees and just kind of break them off. They break off very easily to have some dry wood. So that's a very good survival technique too, to find dry wood. Just snap off these trees here. So there's a lot of food aspect to that. As far as there's a lot of other. I'm just trying to think of all the other. Oh, the roots. The roots of the younger ones are great. It's kind of like cordage. So you can just dig it up and use those roots as like rope for the most part. Also, I heard in the roots and other aspects of this, it's a cure for I think worms like roundworm, flatworm. Is there things like that? So there is a cure for that also. I've been told. Also, like I said, you can use these things like a little bit bigger ones. You can bend them over, kind of make shelters or debris hut out of them. You can. There's so many things you can do with these things. I would probably not recommend using these things as like a spring-loaded like snare type deal because if you ever see these things get snowed on or ice on, they kind of hold their form after the snow is gone or the ice is gone before they perk up. It takes a while to do that. So I haven't tried ever snaring from one of these, but I probably would use another tree or use a weighted type deal there to snare. But there's so much I probably didn't mention about this, the white pine. It's just an awesome, awesome tree. There's so much to talk about. This is Wilderness Surviving and Thriving. I'll see you next time. Thanks.